You were told to tame it, to bury your urges, to feel shame for the fire that lives in your blood. But what if that very energy, the one you repressed the most, was the key to bending reality? Carl Jung knew. Foucault warned us. And you felt it too. The pull, the science, the strange alignment of events when you're fully alive. You've felt it. That strange ripple in reality. The text that arrives the moment you think of someone. The song on the radio echoing your unspoken thoughts. The stranger who utters the exact phrase you dreamed last night. Coincidence? Maybe. But deep down, you know better. There's something happening beneath the fabric of what we call real. A hidden pattern. A secret symmetry. A whisper in the architecture of the cosmos. Responding to you. To your state. To your inner fire. But here's the forbidden truth. It doesn't speak when you're distracted. It doesn't whisper when you're spilling your essence into every fleeting pleasure. No, the universe starts to notice you when you start noticing you. That power you waste in lust? That ache you hide in shame? That trembling desire you try to silence? It's not a curse. It's not a flaw. It's a doorway. And when you stop releasing it into the void, when you hold it, when you become it, you change. And when you change, the world starts moving differently. That's not fantasy. That's synchronicity. And it's fueled by the energy you've been taught to fear, your sexual energy. You were never meant to give it away so easily. You were meant to transmute it, to channel it, to let it burn inside you until it lights the way to something divine. So now, the question isn't whether the universe speaks. The question is, what happens when you finally have enough power within you to hear it? You've heard the name, Carl Jung, the Swiss psychoanalyst, the rebel, the mystic scientist who saw psychology not just as a study of behavior, but as a map to the soul. He didn't see libido as Freud did, not just as raw sexual drive, not just the urge for pleasure. To Jung, libido was something far more primal. It was life energy, a creative force, the fuel of spiritual awakening, the spark behind synchronicity, and the key to transcending lust. Let that sink in. Your sexual energy is not just about reproduction. It's about creation in the deepest sense. And when it isn't wasted, it begins to reshape you from within. Jung called this redirection of libido a psychic transformation. Instead of discharging your energy outward, into porn, into meaningless sex, into dopamine traps, you learn to hold it. And when you hold it, you build psychic pressure. That pressure activates your unconscious mind, and suddenly, the universe starts reflecting you. You see the same number again and again, 11. 11, 444, 333. You run into people at the exact moment they were thinking of you. You get answers to questions you never asked out loud. This isn't magic. This is Jungian psychology working through the collective unconscious. It's synchronicity explained not as superstition, but as the result of inner alignment. And alignment starts when you stop giving your power away. You've been tricked into thinking that release is freedom. But it's the opposite. Every time you release without awareness, you weaken your inner magnet. You dull your signal to the universe. You separate your body from your soul. But when you transmute your sexual energy, when you learn the ancient art of inner alchemy, you sharpen the connection. You begin to glow from within. And the world, as if waking up from a dream, starts responding in impossible ways. This is shadow work in its purest form. Not repressing the urge, but understanding it. Not denying your desire, but transforming it into depth, into direction, into destiny. So here's what they won't tell you. Your synchronicities are not random. They are responses. The universe mirrors your inner charge. And sexual energy, when mastered, is the most potent charge you can hold. Welcome to the truth Jung was too wise to shout, and too dangerous to ignore. So now you're holding it. That fire. That ache. That invisible force you used to spend carelessly, now becoming something else. Weightier. Brighter. Stranger. And that's when the universe begins to change its language around you. No longer mute, no longer silent. It speaks, in the only way it ever does to those doing the deep work of inner alchemy. Through signs, through symbols, through synchronicity. You begin to see things before they happen. You think of someone, and they call. You imagine a symbol, and it appears. You speak a need, and life responds, often in eerie, precise ways. This is not coincidence. This is resonance. The moment you stop diffusing your energy outward, you raise your vibration. You become magnetic. Not in the pop spiritual, cliché sense, but in the way ancient mystics and depth psychologists meant it. You sync with the underlying pattern of reality itself. The chaos of your world? It quiets. Not because life becomes easier, but because you become clearer. That's the first symptom of transformation. Clarity. Followed by synchronicity. It's the soul's language made visible. It's life reflecting that you're no longer just reacting, you're now creating. You don't need to force reality anymore. You simply hold your power, and the world bends toward you like iron toward a magnet. These are the signs of inner alchemy. You feel a surge of creative energy you can't explain. You begin waking up at strange hours, as if something wants to speak to you. Your dreams become vivid, often symbolic, as if the unconscious is pulling you deeper. You lose the desire for surface-level pleasures, and crave depth, truth, alignment. People begin to comment on your aura, your presence, even your eyes, but they can't name what changed. They're witnessing what happens when you stop leaking power, and start living with power. And this power is ancient. It is not just the law of attraction. This isn't about visualizing a car and hoping it appears. No. This is something older, more visceral. This is the law of synchronicity. And it doesn't obey your thoughts. It obeys your frequency. And your frequency is highest when your sexual energy and consciousness align. That's when you begin transmuting desire into vision, lust into wisdom, longing into purpose. And you realize, you were never meant to escape your desire. You were meant to become it, to embody it, until the cosmos takes notice. And when it does, the signs never stop coming. You don't just stumble into alignment. No one wakes up in perfect harmony with the cosmos. You burn your way into it. And it often starts with a collapse, a heartbreak, a betrayal, a suffocating loneliness. Or maybe just a deep, nameless pain you can't explain. This is the dark night of the soul. Jung called it a confrontation with the shadow. The moment when everything you thought you were begins to disintegrate. Because something truer wants to emerge. But why does it hurt so much? Because transformation is violent. Because your ego doesn't die quietly. Because your false pleasures, your addictions, your escapes, your compulsions, they fight for survival when you start reclaiming your sexual energy and healing from within. You thought letting go would feel like peace. Instead, it feels like war. But listen carefully. That pain isn't punishment. It's purification. You're not being broken. You're being emptied, so you can finally hold power without fear. This is why so many experience synchronicity after trauma. Because when the old identity crumbles, and the raw soul is exposed, something begins to shift. Your reality starts responding to your inner resurrection. You'll notice it in strange ways. You'll meet people who mirror your pain, but also your potential. You'll hear phrases or quotes that answer questions you haven't spoken aloud. You'll see symbols, snakes, eyes, flames, that match your inner metamorphosis. You'll feel moments of calm in the storm, almost like divine pauses in the suffering. That's the first whisper of alignment. That's synchronicity telling you, I see you. Keep going. Because once you stop numbing the pain, once you stop sedating your life with endless pleasure, and you begin holding that sexual charge within you as fuel rather than a burden, you begin to wake up. And your suffering, once a cage, becomes a compass. Every tear you shed refines your frequency. Every heartbreak cracks the shell of ego a little more. Every lonely night sharpens your intuition. You're not just healing. You're upgrading. and synchronicity is the universe's way of confirming it. So if you're suffering right now, don't run. Don't numb. Don't waste the fire. Because on the other side of that darkness is a pattern waiting to be revealed, a language waiting to be read, a power waiting to be owned. And when it comes, you'll know. Because the world around you will begin to echo the truth inside you. Now you know. The whispers of synchronicity don't come from outside. They rise from within. They are reflections, not messages from above, but mirrors of your vibration. And there's no vibration more potent, more volatile, more misunderstood than sexual energy. This is the secret hidden in every mystical tradition, every ancient symbol, every half-buried Jungian archetype. Not suppression, not indulgence, but transmutation. Sexual transmutation is the practice of redirecting your raw erotic energy into creative force, spiritual elevation, and conscious manifestation. It is the philosopher's stone disguised in flesh. It is power, in its most primal, pure, and sacred form, reclaimed. But how do you do it? You begin by not releasing it. Not as repression, but as reverence. You treat your desire like molten gold, too valuable to spill, too holy to waste. You feel the hunger. But you don't feed it with fantasy. You don't numb it with dopamine. You breathe it in. You raise it up. You allow it to saturate every cell, every thought, every intention. This is sexual alchemy. And something profound begins to happen. The more you hold the energy, the more your body becomes a temple, not a tool. Your attention sharpens. Your creativity explodes. Your intuition, once dull, becomes razor-honed. And reality itself begins to rearrange around you. Why? Because you are no longer divided. No longer dissipated. You are whole. And wholeness resonates with the architecture of synchronicity. It's like tuning a radio. When your energy centers, your root, your sacral, your solar plexus, begin to harmonize through the containment of sexual energy. You rise to a frequency where coincidences aren't rare anymore. They become a natural consequence of alignment. This isn't about belief. It's biology, psychology, and metaphysics colliding. Carl Jung knew this. He wrote that archetypes are patterns that exist beyond time, eternal molds of the human soul. And libido, your psychic energy, activates them. When you hold your sexual force within, you're no longer just human. You are myth. You are symbol. You begin to resonate with these archetypal forces. The warrior, the lover, the sage, the alchemist. And each archetype is like a magnetic field pulling synchronicities toward you. Not because you chase them, but because you embody them. You're no longer asking the universe for signs. You become the sign. You radiate so much contained, intelligent energy that the world can't help but rearrange itself to meet you. You don't manifest. You magnetize. You don't chase purpose. You become purpose. That is the power of sexual transmutation. It builds the internal architecture for synchronicity to live in. It's not about suppressing desire. It's about turning it into destiny. You're not weak. You're wired against yourself. If you've ever wondered why it's so hard to hold your sexual energy, why synchronicities feel rare, why your focus slips the moment you try to level up, it's not because you're broken. It's because you've been trained to leak. Modern culture doesn't just ignore your inner power, it feeds off your disconnection from it. Every app you open, every scroll through synthetic bodies, every buzz, every ping, every pixel of false pleasure, is designed to keep you just low enough to stay distracted, and just numb enough to never ask why. Why can't I sit still without stimulation? Why do I feel empty after release? Why do I crave things that drain me? Why does the world feel quiet when I'm most present? Because they've inverted the truth. They told you pleasure is freedom. But freedom without discipline is addiction. They told you sex is self-expression. But what they didn't tell you is this. Your uncontrolled desire is their currency. Every time you give into another dopamine hit, you give away a piece of your will. Your attention. Your spiritual fire. But what if you stopped? What if, for one season of your life, You said no to the noise? What if you embraced conscious celibacy? Not from fear of sin, but from reverence for your own force? What if you practiced semen retention, not as some internet trend, but as a ritual of self-realignment? Do you know what would happen? You would remember. You would feel something ancient reawaken. A clarity you haven't known since childhood. A strength modernity tried to delete from your DNA. Because deep within you is the forgotten technology of the mystics. An inner current of divine fire that never dies, only dims. And the moment you stop wasting it on the world's illusions, the world begins to bend around your inner truth. That's why they keep you distracted. Because a man, or a woman, who masters their sexual energy, cannot be controlled. You become less predictable, less compliant, less programmable. You walk slower. You speak deeper. You listen more. You start seeing patterns, hidden ones everywhere. And synchronicities flood back in. Not randomly, but as signals of reawakening. The numbers, the names, the dreams, the prophetic moments. They're not miracles. They are reminders. You're finally vibrating at your true frequency. This is the war. A silent war of attention. And your libido is the front line. Win it, and you reclaim your sovereignty. Reclaim it, and you begin to live what Jung called the individuated life, a life that doesn't follow the world's rules, but follows the soul's whisper. And synchronicity becomes your second language. By now you've seen the signs, the numbers, the dreams, the coincidences too sharp to dismiss. And you're asking yourself, is this real? Or am I imagining it? Let me tell you something simple. You don't imagine synchronicity. You awaken to it. And when it starts happening, it means one thing above all else. You're getting close. Closer to your true self. Closer to your path. Closer to your destiny. But synchronicity isn't just there to amaze you. It's a compass, a living, breathing guidance system from your unconscious mind and the hidden structure of the cosmos. And like all compasses, it's only useful if you know how to read it. So how do you read the signs? Start here. 1. Pay attention to repetition. The same number keeps appearing, 1111, 333, 777. That's not a game. It's a pulse. The rhythm of your energy aligning with something bigger. 2. Listen for echoing words. When a stranger, a friend, a video, a lyric, and your own thoughts all say the same thing, that's a message. The universe doesn't speak in noise. It speaks in echo. 3. Trust your body's response. You feel goosebumps. Your heart skips. Your breath stops for a moment. That's not anxiety. That's resonance. Synchronicity is spiritual precision disguised as coincidence. It doesn't ask for belief. It asks for awareness. But here's the catch. You must stay clean to receive it. Not perfect. Not saintly. But energetically clear. Because when your energy is scattered, porn, drama, overthinking, junk dopamine, you drown out the signal. Synchronicity is quiet. It requires stillness. And if you want to use it as a compass, you must learn to walk slowly, listen deeply, and act courageously when the signs come. This is what Carl Jung meant when he said, "Synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see. Not eyes of logic. Eyes of soul." So the next time something clicks, aligns, or falls perfectly into place, don't question it to death. Let it lead you. Let it confirm the invisible shifts inside you. Because every synchronicity you receive is like a breadcrumb from your higher self, a trail toward your next becoming. And the more you follow them, the more they come. Until one day, your entire life begins to feel like a dance with the divine. Effortless. Aligned. Fated, but also fully chosen. Because synchronicity doesn't control you. It doesn't dictate your path. It reveals the path you're already creating, one choice at a time. You've felt it before, those rare moments when time melts. When every word flows, when your actions feel effortless. And the world seems to cooperate with your intention. That's flow state. But what no one tells you is this. Your flow state is sexually powered. Yes, your sexual energy is not just for pleasure, or even just for creation in the physical sense. It is a portal. When you transmute it, you open a gateway into higher dimensions of intelligence, creativity, and manifestation. Jung knew this when he wrote about the creative aspect of libido, not as animal lust, but as the psychic force that builds not just children, but ideas, art, empires, and evolution itself. When you stop wasting your erotic energy outward, you create pressure. That pressure is not repression, it's potential. Think of it like a dam. Hold the water, build pressure, open the right channel, and the water becomes electricity. That's sexual transmutation in action. And here's the key. When your sexual energy is transmuted and focused, you enter the zone. You write clearer. You speak deeper. You move with instinct. You attract aligned opportunities without forcing anything. That's not a coincidence. That's resonant vibration. Your nervous system calms. Your mind sharpens. You are no longer fragmented by lust and distraction. Your entire being points in one direction. And that's when manifestation becomes second nature. Not because you're forcing the universe, but because you've become magnetic to what reflects your inner power. This is the secret of Tantra, the core of mystical alchemy, and the hidden truth behind high-performance states. Flow state is not an accident. It's the natural consequence of energetic integrity. And your sexual energy? That's the fuel. The ignition. The divine tension behind the breakthrough. When you enter flow while holding your vital force, you open yourself to a kind of superconscious intelligence. You become the channel. You stop trying to figure it out and start letting it move through you. That's when synchronicities explode. Not just in numbers, but in events, people, clarity, timing, breakthroughs. It's as if the universe says, "You're finally in tune. Let me assist." So if you've ever felt stuck, scattered, burnt out, uninspired, don't look for more content, more hacks, more hacks. Look at your energy. Where is it leaking? Where are you wasting your sacred fire? Because when you seal those cracks, when you reclaim your erotic current and channel it upward, you don't just get things done. You start to create on a mythic scale. You stop surviving and start generating. This is your birthright. This is your portal. But only you can choose to walk through it. This is the moment where it all comes together. Where the fragments of who you thought you were and the suppressed pieces you tried to hide begin to form one complete image. You. Whole. Radiant. Unapologetically real. But here's the truth. You will never enter true alignment, you will never master synchronicity or transmute sexual energy, until you face your shadow. Carl Jung said it clearly. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Your shadow holds the parts of you you've rejected. The shame. The guilt. The wounds. The forbidden desires. The trauma you were too young to process. And here's the paradox. Your sexual energy is not separate from your shadow. It is often buried inside it. The world taught you to feel ashamed of your erotic instincts. Religious guilt. Cultural programming. Early exposure to distorted sexuality. So you buried it. You pushed it down. You turned it into fantasy, secrecy, numbness, or addiction. But your shadow doesn't disappear. It waits. And until you confront it, you'll keep leaking energy, no matter how many spiritual books you read or meditations you do. Integration begins with courage. Can you sit with your shame without running? Can you look at your fantasies without judgment? Can you see your wounds not as defects, but as doorways? Because when you do, you recover lost energy. Every shadow you integrate becomes light reborn. You stop fearing your desire. You stop splitting yourself into higher and lower self. You realize, I am both, and both are sacred. That's when your sexual energy becomes not just powerful, but pure. Because it's no longer contaminated by secrecy or self-hate. It's owned, held, blessed. This is what creates the true vibrational field for synchronicity. Not just withheld energy, but reconciled energy. When your inner child stops hiding. when your inner lover is honored, when your pain is held instead of denied, you return to wholeness. And wholeness is magnetic. You'll notice this. As you integrate your shadow, synchronicities become more intense, but also more subtle. You don't chase them anymore. You don't need them to prove anything. You simply walk the world with an open heart, a clear body, and an undivided soul. And life responds. Because the universe doesn't reward perfection. It responds to authenticity. And there is nothing more authentic than a person who owns their lust and love, their rage and compassion, their fear and courage, all at once. This is the real spiritual path. Not transcendence. Not denial. Integration. This is the final alchemy. Not to become someone else, but to finally return to yourself. Now you know the truth. Not because I told you, but because something ancient inside you remembered. And now it's time for the final step. To become the symbol. In Jungian psychology, a symbol isn't just an image. It's a bridge, a vessel through which the infinite expresses itself in the finite. And when you integrate your shadow, align your sexual energy, and attune to synchronicity, you become that vessel. You become the living symbol of transformation. A walking example of what happens when someone reclaims their energy and channels it into becoming. You're no longer just talking about synchronicity. You're living in alignment with it. You're no longer just theorizing about transmutation. You are radiating it, every time you speak, create, or simply exist. You no longer ask, "What's my purpose?" Because you embody it. Every room you enter shifts. Not because of arrogance, but because of clarity. You carry a different frequency. One that's been earned. Not bought, not borrowed, not copied, earned through the discipline of self-honor. And here's the beautiful part. When you become the living symbol, you don't need to chase anything. Opportunities begin to orbit you. People feel drawn without knowing why. Reality bends to the shape of your vibration, not because you manifested it with words, but because you became energetically aligned with what you were always meant to receive. This is the final transformation. Not to seek magic, but to become the magic. You become the lighthouse, the mirror, the flame. You stop seeking signs, because you become the sign for others. People will come to you not for answers, but for presence. To feel what it's like to be around someone who doesn't suppress their desire, doesn't shame their darkness, doesn't scatter their power. Someone who lives whole. This is your destiny. Not perfection. Not enlightenment. But embodiment. To be a symbol of the new human. Rooted in Eros, guided by synchronicity, radiating consciousness. No more waiting. No more doubting. The divine doesn't need more worshippers. It needs embodiments. And you are ready? Not because you're done growing, but because you've begun becoming. So go live like a symbol. Walk like one. Speak like one. Create like one. Love like one. And watch the world respond in kind. Because when you change your vibration, you change your reality. You are not just a person. You are a portal. And the universe has been waiting to move through you. Now, it can.